Ayubowan, humans. Welcome back to Beyond the Northern Wall, your weekly talk show with me, your host, Kayla Malari. This is desperately needed. Hold on a second. Hi, y'all. It's been a couple of days, but we'll get into that later. Welcome back. We are on part 10 of a brief and actually a not brief, but definitely annotated history of the Corps. Now remember, I'm taking like 8 years and I'm condensing it into hour segments where I'm trying to fill everything. So it's annotated. It's just not very brief. We ended last week with FMA set. We finished FMA set and actually, you know what was really sweet? Two things. One, shout out to the alumni who still tune into this show. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. It means a lot that you still support us, even though that you're not active on the team. But speaking of alumni, Bevy messaged me after watching last week's episode the next morning, and she was like, I remember going to pick up the badges with you for that AX when we did Full Metal Alchemist. And I was like, yeah, it was like a fun little day trip that we both took. And she was like, that was also the year that everyone was you. And I forgot. I send in my documentation that's needed for all of our performances post haste, and I give all the information, including a full roster of everyone's names, first and last, in alphabetical order, to our convention liaisons or whoever I need to send it to, and I send multiple copies. They didn't write a single name on 32 badges except for mine. So there were 32 Kaylas, not even my last name, just Kayla's. And my name isn't the first name on the list. It's in alphabetical order. So they probably just saw the email and were like, oh, okay, 32 badges, print 32 Kayla's. So everyone was Kayla that year. And I totally forgot that totally happened. It was very, was it funny or was it just awkward? It was just awkward. So FMA happened and it was stress ball change because it was so hot and everyone died. Essentially. And then we survived and we made it to the end. So we're like, okay, no matter what happens, we're going to go to San Diego Comic-Con. It's not going to be that hot. It can't be. And it never will be, especially because we're by the water. Thankfully, it wasn't. So we're like, we've gone through the worst of the summer and we're just going to have a good time at San Diego Comic-Con. Couple things with the San Diego Comic-Con that I'm going to touch base with. One, the set that we did, which was Sucker Punch Princesses, Disney princesses. Now, I really love the movie Sucker Punch. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea. Me and Soulmate both love it. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but it's hot girls with guns fighting and doing like cool anime fighting. Like, if you're going to a Zack Snyder movie for the story, then, I mean, have fun with that Snyder cut of Justice League. It's not going to be any better. Also, side note, if you haven't seen the trailer for the Snyder cut of Justice League, don't watch it. Or watch it and be as confused about it as I am. It's a weird cover of Hallelujah as the overlay song. Sung, oddly? I don't think he's a bad singer, whoever is the one that sang the cover of Hallelujah. It's just not, it sounds weird. And the aspect ratio of the filming is like Instagram. It's a square. I think it's weird. I don't know. It doesn't fit in your screen. So that's just weird. I don't know if they filmed it that way or if they produced it that way. Awkward. And the shots that they're showing that they're added into it I don't know. It doesn't make sense. Anyways, so Zack Snyder made Sucker Punch, and I loved that movie when I first watched it way back when. And me and Soulmate were like, okay, what if we did Sucker Punch, but we took it like with Disney princesses, which was super cool because there's like those main 5 girls and they all have distinct styles. And we're like, but we'll take it Disney, so it's like that we're gonna do a full crossover mashup of it. For the villain in Sucker Punch, the villain is the head. He's like the head nurse of the asylum, and then it's like an Alice in Wonderland rabbit hole. There's a whole thing about. I always look at the production of a movie in tandem with the actual movie, and with Sucker Punch, Zack Snyder is not a PG-13 filmmaker. And yet they keep trying to make him PG-13. Imagine trying to take 300 and making it PG-13. That's what they did. They're like, hey, Zack Snyder, can you make a movie but like make it so kids can watch it? And he's like, but what? Okay, so when he made Sucker Punch and he pitched it out his first original screenplay, they're like, make it PG-13. And he was like, but there's like a lot of killing in it. So he had to figure out a way to take the blood out of it, which is why there's so many different like imaginary layers and so many different versions of like the villains and stuff and how they die. There's a whole thing. So Sucker Punch is crazy, and like crazy is chaotic. And so we were like, cool, it'd be cool if we took like the POC Disney princesses and put them as like the main 5 girls, and then the ultimate villain. There's so many villains you can choose from, but we've already done Maleficent. We've already done Facilier, my favorite villain. My favorite in the sense that he is the coolest style. And then we've already done, oh my God, we've done Hades, we've done Scar, we've done Yzma, we've done Cruella. We've done kind of like the cool fashion-wise villains. We're like, who's one of the ultimate villains that no one ever really thinks of? And we, with the help of Shishi, because he's the only one who knew his name, we decided on Chernabog. If you don't know who Chernabog is, in Disney's Fantasmic, the show at Disneyland, or in the movie Fantasia, Chernabog is the big demon horned guy that comes out of the mountain, and he like controls all the demon ghost things. Yeah, he's like iconic to Sorcerer Mickey. Whenever Sorcerer Mickey shows up in a Disney thing, Chernabog is the main villain. So we decided to make Blue, who's the villain in Sucker Punch, Chernabog, which is why Shell wears a blue suit. We also were like, Shell, you also wore an entire suit of armor for FMA, so we want you still as a main character for this, but we're gonna give you a suit, and the most you're gonna wear are horns. So, and then Little was Madam. What is her name? The evil stepmother from Cinderella. Corsman, no, they're probably going to say it in the chat. Madam. And she played the, whatchamacallit, Madame Vorsky from Sucker Punch. So she was a Madame Vorsky version of the stepmother of Cinderella. And then, of course, Baby Doll was Mulan. Rocket was Ariel. Check that I know these names. Sweet Pea was Jasmine. Blondie was Pocahontas. And what, gosh, not Soulmate. Well, Tiana. Tiana was there, and it was Amber. Amber was Tiana. Lady Tremaine, thank you. So, okay, I'm going to say a little bit about casting in this sense. Because when we casted the princesses for Sucker Punch Princess, that cast was not set in stone. I was not supposed to be Mulan. And so to give you a little bit of context of what this is, because this will play a theme later on, and it has played a theme on Core from the beginning, is casting. People always ask us thank you, Little. It is the 108th year. So the year that I'm in right now is 2018. Right? 2018, yes. 108th and 2018. So casting. Everyone always asks us, how do you guys cast and how do you decide on who plays who? Clearly, we don't do it solely on looks because that doesn't matter. Anyone can play anyone. It's more about the personality. It's more about how they exemplify the character. It's more about how they personify the character in their dancing, not necessarily their acting, because that can make or break it, but they're dancing first and foremost. So if you have a character like, say, LA as May for FMA, we know LA can do the bendy martial arts looking movement and personify May's like young, fluid Chinese martial arts movement in her dancing. So that's why we casted her as May. Trini, we know that like aside from her dancing, she can really play anyone based off of her dancing. But based off of her characterization as a dancer, we knew she could pull off Envy literally by not saying a word and just being on stage, which we saw. She could hold a stage down by just being there. This is me being Trini, being there. So casting is a lot of things. But beyond that, in the studio, in rehearsals, me and Soulmates study everything. Now, I'm going to say this. Here we go. Context for the whole casting. This is my perspective on the casting. It is reflected in Soulmate's perspective, but she also has her own opinions and her own experiences that change how she looks at things. Granted, we look at things almost identical, hence Soulmates, but this is my background for it. I have been auditioning for the professional dance industry for a very long time, since I was in high school. So I was doing I'm not saying auditions in high school, because auditions in high school they're scary, but they're just auditions in high school. No, I was auditioning in the dance industry in high school. My first audition was when I was 16 years old. And then since then, I've been in the dance industry in LA, in Hollywood. I've done all that stuff. When you're in the dance industry in Hollywood, in Los Angeles, you are the hardest working bottom step. They don't there are actors that can send in tapes. There are actors who can show up dressed down. No, for a dance audition, you have to dress and look the way you're supposed to look on film day shoot 1. They won't tell you what that look is. You kind of got to guess it. So for a dancer, it sucks. And you always have to prove to the max what you can do. Actors have to do that every time as well. But no one gets a dance gig just by word of mouth alone. Even if you already know the choreographer, the choreographer has to prove that they can choreograph every single time. Now, when you go into a dance gig, every dance audition that I've gone into, they're hard. They suck. I've heard no more often than I've heard yes. That's something you guys have to understand. When you go into anything in your life, not just an audition, job interviews, relationships, interactions, you're going to hear no. You're going to hear not great things about yourself. I've literally been told to never show up without a full beat face, that I could never book a gig. Even if they say come fresh face and low makeup, I've literally been told to my face, you don't look good without makeup. You need to always have a full beat face to look natural. That's what the industry is. So you got to build a tough skin. They've also will tell you your hair's ugly today. I don't like it. They'll tell you superficial things, but that's also what you're kind of getting into. So you can't be surprised about that. But beyond that, you go into these casting auditions or these regular dance auditions and you'll hear no. Everyone hears no. Just like everyone was bullied when they were a kid. Everyone was made fun of. Everyone's had their heart broken. These are not new things. We are not special snowflakes in that sense. We are not the only people that have ever felt bad about ourselves. We are not the only people that have never not gotten something. Everyone has always not gotten something. So you have to walk into an audition knowing there is a possibility you won't get it. And it has nothing to do with you personally as a human being. They're not telling you go home and wallow in your sadness. They're just saying, no, we don't want you for this job. We don't want you for this gig. We don't want you for this role. And you leave and it sucks. It always sucks. It never not sucks. It always sucks. And you always leave feeling like a piece of poop. And then you go home and you feel like a piece of poop and you hate everything. And then you go back out there and you do it all over again. And you have to prove that you can do it all over again. You have to earn it every single time. Even if you worked your hardest and you were the best one there, you still might not earn it. And then you still have to prove it that you earned it later on. So that's the environment that I'm coming from. Me personally. I've been at gigs. I did a Samsung commercial called, if you want to look it up, you can't really see my face because who cares about dancers? If you look up Samsung DJ Spider, Spyder. Yes, it was a commercial with a spider in it and I was in it and it sucked. If you look that up, that was a commercial that I did. it was a casting where we had to go in, and it was a last minute casting. But so of course every dancer scrambles for a last minute casting. Doesn't matter if it's 30 minutes, you beat your face, you put on your outfit, and you go to that audition and you cast. And for this one, it was like after hours, like most of the casting sessions had already ended, and this production wanted dancers kind of last second. So they're like, they went out to all the dance agencies, and like MTA messaged me, and they're like, you need to go to this audition. I was like, okay. So I go to this casting, and you're in this like their little office because their studios are already closed, and they're like, hey, I know this is super awkward and we don't have music, and the music's gonna play on my phone, but it's really quiet, but can you just freestyle? And like, you don't have to be sassy, fierce, sexy, you don't have to be any of that, you just have to look cool. Can you freestyle and look cool, just from like the waist up? Just look cool, like look hip and trendy. So a bunch of us do this freestyle, and then like a week or two later, I booked the gig. And so I go to the gig, and we do, like, there's a whole day of costuming. So you do your costuming. They fit you in your outfits. We had so many different outfits. I got to keep my cool shoes from one of those outfits. It was like these gold glitter sneakers with spikes on them. They're so random, but I was like, heck yeah, I'll keep them. So we did the costuming. Then we did the rehearsal. Now the rehearsal was nothing, okay? The dance rehearsal was nothing. It was choreographed by Psy. This DJ, Samsung did DJ Spider in collaboration with Psy, Gangnam Style. So they had to choreograph a special dance for this commercial. It's not anything. The story of the commercial is that this janitor, a la Ratatouille, gets on stage during a DJ set at a club and starts to clean off the recording turntables. And then a spider comes down his shirt and he's trying to get it out. And he ends up like hitting the switch, and there's a beat that drops, and him trying to get the spider out, like literally this is a move, makes it look like he's dancing. And then someone starts filming on their Samsung, and everyone in the club starts like bopping to it, and then he becomes famous because it goes viral, and then he becomes a famous DJ, and blah blah blah. So that's like the story of the commercial. So this is like the choreography, okay? This is literally the choreo that we had to go into rehearsal for. So we go into rehearsal. As we're filming, we've done one film day, we've done all the scenes we have to do, and like half of your scenes as a dancer don't even get used. So like all my scenes from day one didn't get used. Day two, we're doing the big club scene where it's like he's back at the club that he started at, but now he's famous. He's at the DJ booth. He's got his 4 like dancing girls behind him and whatnot. We are literally filming. We are literally 3 hours into filming, and the director stops and we take for a break. During that break, all the dancers have to emergency meet with the choreographer and the costumer in the room. So we all go over there, and we're like everyone's getting along on the set. It's like chill. No one's being crazy. We go into the room, and there's 3 of us. We don't know where the 4th girl is, and there's a new girl in there. And she was a girl that we were like chatting with. There's like extras in the club. There's extras being club members, and like when we're not in between filming, we're just like all talking from the stage. So we're leaning on the railing and like talking to these random people, and we were like talking to this one girl, and now she's now in the dressing room. She was just an extra, and we're like, we're like, oh hey, you're back here. She was like, yeah, someone just came and got me and told me to come back here. I don't know what's going on. Then the assistant director comes in and goes, hey, they fired the other girl because she wasn't getting the choreography, and they want you to jump in for her. This is day 2 of filming. We're about a couple hours in. So that's all that story being said. That's the world I'm coming from. That you constantly have to prove that you earned your spot. Even when you've already gotten your spot, you still have to prove it, because you can be replaced like that. And that's just what it is, Santa. Like, we felt bad for that girl, but we were like, she was like, okay, I got fired. That sucks. And then she went back in the audience as an extra, and then the extra got bumped up a pay grade, put on a costume that definitely didn't fit her, but she made it work, and she learned this dance in 2 seconds and jumped on stage with us. We don't know what the reasonings were. They said it was because she wasn't getting the choreo, but it could have been a number of things. Maybe the executive producers came in and didn't like the way she looked. Maybe there's so many different things in Hollywood. But that just goes to show that that is what it is. Like, you have to earn your spot. So, bringing it back to core. When me and Soulmate cast, we look at everything. We look at dance ability. We look at how they can personify and characterize the character. We also look at how they are at rehearsals. If they're a main character, can they attend all of the rehearsals required of a main character? Because like I said on core before, we're not like super crazy strict. We understand life happens and we work really hard, but a lot of people, you know, everyone has these actual adult careers. So core is literally something, it's a labor of love for us. But when you're a main character, we have to ask, are you available to be there? Because some people, you know, hate to say it, sorry guys, some people aren't as dedicated as other people on core. Some people don't come every time. Some people honestly can't come every time. And it's not that they're not trying hard. That's what I mean by dedication. It's not that they're not trying hard. They're doing their best, but their schedule doesn't allow for them to be at every rehearsal. That's, again, it is what it is, Santa. So we look at that. How often are they going to be there? Also, are they committed? Are they going to be able to do like any extra things that we need of the main characters? A lot of main characters have to freestyle a lot. So we're like, all right, are we looking at dancers who have the stamina for that? Because some people are just gods when it comes to picking up choreo and melding in any style. And then other people maybe aren't very good at all the styles, but you know, you say, hey, I need like half of a song of you freestyling, you know you can pick certain people on core and they will be so interesting. So there's like different strengths and weaknesses, and me and Soulmate look at all of that when we cast. Now, here's the thing. Sorry, I'm just catching up on everyone's messages. Okay. So when we first thought of doing Sucker Punch Princesses, me and Soulmate decide things, like I said before, months in advance, almost a year. In the beginning, there was nothing. No, in the beginning of the year, we had an idea of who we wanted for certain characters. I actually had someone else in mind to be Mulan, another dancer who was like, hey, they actually haven't had like a main role. Like everyone's had a main role, but they haven't had like a main role in like one of these smaller sets that we do during the summer. So I wanted to give that to them because I was like, they've been working really hard and like I think they can really do it. And then as the year progressed, if I'm going to be honest, the person that I wanted to have as Mulan really kind of was just now there for fun. Didn't really want to put the extra oomph in it. Was kind of like, you know what? And I was like, now I can't. Mulan is such a hardcore parkour character. Now the person that I want for Mulan is showing that they can't do the hardcore parkour. And here's the thing. Some people get really hung up on the main characters. I'm going to be candid with this. Some people really get emotionally invested in wanting to be a certain character and then really get their feelings hurt when they don't get that character. And me and Soulmate and the rest of the board, whoever's there, we always have a conversation with them and it's always ended, you know, fine and okay. But I always tell the team too, when we go into castings, I'm like, you guys, first of all, no one is a background character. No one ever has been a background character. With that being said, my entire career has been as an ensemble character, and I have a great career. So if you're griping about being an ensemble character, just know that you're kind of pooping on my career. Just gotta put that out there. So it came to the point where we're like, okay, we need to cast for what is needed. And so I think it was Little and Soulmate together, which was really sweet. They were like, maybe Little was like, Big should be Mulan. I also just put everything in Little's words. Because Soulmate is the resounding yes in my head. And Little's the resounding logic. And Nifa's the resounding, wait, what are the facts? That's what's in my head right now. And then Bro TP is usually next to me just maybe throwing shade in the most logical way possible. I say that with love. My Bro TP is great. Yeah, so I ended up being Mulan. Soulmate was Tiana. Chibs was Pocahontas. Trini was Ariel. And J-Dang was Jasmine. What's funny too is that this can happen on core as well. We believe cosplay is for everyone. We believe the way you look, the color of your skin, it doesn't matter. But you know what surprised me was a lot of people immediately thought, like, Chibs is going to be a main character just because she can hold it down. But a lot of people on Core immediately thought Chibs was going to play Tiana and that Trini was going to play Pocahontas. And I remember sitting at the back of Studio Exchange and we were just like talking during a break. And I said, it was like during Across the Floors, and we were watching people freestyle, and they're like, oh yeah, Chibs would make a great Tiana. And I said, oh, why? Because in my head, I'm like, oh no, I want to cast Chibs as Tiana. Her dancing is so, like, she's so grounded when she freestyles. Immediately, I was like, she's got to be polka, because that's the style you want, something that's very, very into the earth. That's polka. And they're like, because she looks like Tiana. And that was weird. I was like, what? And then I was like, why do you guys think Trini should be Pocahontas? And like, well, because Trini has long black hair. And I remember Soulmate heard it too, and we both went, so? Like that? What? That has nothing to do with it. It also comes into like way back, throwing it back to Teen Titans. Me and Chibs talked about it. She was really excited to be casted as Starfire. She told me straight up, she said, I honestly thought I was going to be Bumblebee. And I said, Chibs, why? And she's like, because Bumblebee's the only black character. And granted, this is like still at the beginning of us doing Core. Like, that was probably the second time we've ever performed at San Diego Comic-Con. And I was like, Chibs, it doesn't matter what you look like. She was like, yeah, I do. It's just... She was really excited to play Starfire, especially because she got to play Starfire with Soulmates Raven, and they got to do that whole like friendship. So it still surprises the people on our team too when they get casted outside of their appearance. And it's a good surprise. Not a surprise as like they never expected it. It's just a good surprise for them to be reminded that cosplay is for everyone. But so when we were casting, I was like, yeah, no, Trini needs to be, because Rocket is such an integral part of the storyline in Sucker Punch, so Trini has to be Rocket. And Jae-Dang is, like, Sweet Pea is the mother of everyone, and she's the one that survives. And we're like, oh, of course, Jae-Dang's so good at choreography. She's so much swag. And Soulmate, like, Tiana's one of my favorite princesses. She actually was my favorite. For the longest time, because hello, Capricorn princess. And then, I'm so sorry, Elsa jumped up there, but Tiana was my favorite. She also is she's a princess that's very close to Soulmate, but I thought Soulmate could really personify both Amber's character and Tiana's character on the stage. And then I was Mulan. And then Little was Lady Tremaine, because we're like, oh my gosh, okay. Little as like Bellatrix Lestrange and Lady Tremaine. She like she has a good look for like period era fierceness. I don't know. That's a good look for her. Like Victorian era ferocity is a good look for you, Little. Just so you know. In case you ever decide to wear a corset, go for it. You look great. Turn of the century. So we had the Sucker Punch princesses. We had our main characters. And then everyone else was the Blues. We called them the Blues because it's like the winged devils of Chernobog. And they were everyone else in the set. We gave them the option to make their own outfits for San Diego Comic-Con based off of just blue and black. And everyone, y'all, go look at the Sucker Punch, like the San Diego Comic-Con Sucker Punch performance. Go to the very end when it does the casting call out. It's the line. And you see everyone close up their outfits and their makeup. They did that all on their own. Those outfits were fierce. Like, everyone looked so good. So stinking good. And everyone did their makeup so well. I was like, zang, y'all hot or something? Like, if y'all seen Umbrella Academy 2, when Klaus was like, I know this isn't possible, but did all of us get hotter? That's what we thought. We were like, man, everyone looks really good in this blue outfit. Like, super chic and savvy. So that was really, really fun. And we put that set together again in like no time at all after AX. We took FMA and we kind of semi-planned for it so that when we went into Sucker Punch, we used a lot of the same pieces and almost the same blocking, and we just had to change some stuff in it. So we go into rehearsals, we dish it out, and then we go to San Diego Comic-Con. This San Diego Comic-Con was really fun because, one, I got to go for, I think, 2 or 3 days. I went on day 1 down to our Airbnb sooner, and I was staying in an Airbnb with a bunch of people. But I went down that first day with Soulmate and Rio because Sci-Fi, as in the network Sci-Fi, contacted us and wanted to do an interview for their website for their big Comic-Con spread. And they're like, hey, you're a cosplay dance crew, you're performing, you guys have a great story, we want to interview you for a podcast and for a website. And we're like, oh, yeah. So me and Soulmate went, and because we were going down with Rio, we're like, Rio, it's nice to have a vet with us too. And Rio's literally been there since the beginning. So we brought her as well, and we were going to meet up with them on that first day. That was the first day I think that we took, it's funny now that I think about it, we bounded and we didn't make sense in the bounding. I was bounding as Iron Man. Rio was bounding as Spider-Man, and Soulmate was Aquaman. She looked really good, like really good as Aquaman. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so perfect. I didn't realize that we weren't in the same universe. Like, it didn't occur to me until just right now that we were not in the same universe. Anyway, so we were bounding as superheroes, and we went, and we were going to meet them at the Hilton. Now, if you know how San Diego Comic-Con is set up, the main convention area is the convention center. Then out into the gas lamp, into the restaurants, and the restaurant across the way, the Japanese one, above that, there's like another hotel and everything. Into the gas lamp is where a lot of the other big companies like Mac or all the video game companies have their big booth spreads. Like Mac usually has their own pop-up building that's there. And that's where you see like the Assassin's Creed run through and stuff like that. At the buildings in the gas lamp above, you'll see a lot of big entertainment interviewers up there. So like when E! News does their interviews with celebrities, it's at a very specific balcony above the Japanese restaurant that looks out over the convention center and all of the people. So you get that nice scenery background. And then next door to the convention center is the big Hilton, the big lawn. They have a carnival festival thing going on there. And in the Hilton is where most of the con staff most of the con staff stay there because a lot of the big major interviews or the big junkets, like the news junkets, go on in that Hilton. So that's where all the celebrities are. If you don't see a lot of celebrities wheeling about outside in the ether at Comic-Con, it's because they're staying in those buildings. And the boats out in the dock. So we were meeting at the Hilton, meeting our two humans at the Hilton to go up to the sci-fi room. It was really cool. A couple cool things happened. One, we went in there and we got in the elevator with, Rio says the elevator with, well, first of all, we're standing at the elevator with our person. I forget their names because we meet so many people, but we're waiting to get in the elevator, and then a group of people come out from one of the conference rooms and wait with us, and we get in the elevator. And we're all standing there, and I look at in my perspective, we're all like talking and we're all like quiet because in elevators, like everyone feels inclined to be silent. But I look at this guy. He's a guy with his whole entourage, and he's got like tattoos and his beanie, and he's just like gruff looking. And in my head, I'm like, that's like a celebrity. But why? I can't tell what your face looks like because celebrities don't look like they look in the movies. And then he exited the elevator. And then our sci-fi handler was like, you know, that was Tom Hardy, right? And all of us were like, oh my gosh, that was Venom. That was Mad Max. No wonder he looked familiar. Yeah, so we saw, and it was funny because Rio was Spider-Man. And so we got to share an elevator with Venom, which was really dope. Then we go up to their room, and in their hotel room, they have like all their setup. But the minute we walked into their hotel room, we had to wait a second because everyone was frantically running to their computers. Because at that moment, the news had just dropped that Disney was releasing James Gunn from the third installment of Guardians of the Galaxy based off of all those allegations of past tweets that James Gunn had made that were like, I forget, it was like misogynistic or racist, something. He said something terrible in a long time ago. And it was brought up recently, and it was like this whole feud that was happening online. And then that, like, at one of the big press conferences in the convention center, Disney said they released on their website that they were releasing James Gunn, and he would no longer have a part in Guardians of the Galaxy. That's a big thing, you guys. James Gunn is the reason Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2 are what they look like. He designed everything. He had such a big say in the script, in the appearance, and how the characters were portrayed on screen. So, like, losing him for the franchise was big. It's like losing your front runner. But then also, like, it's those whole things, like the whole cancel culture conversation came up, because they're like, okay, well, that's how he was before, but he has changed now. And then they're saying, like, yeah, but there are other people that never said terrible things, and they're not getting these big opportunities. So it was a big conversation. But Sci-Fi, being the news website as well in pop culture, and being at Comic-Con, they had to frantically get that information out, because everyone was trying to get that information out first. So I remember, like, we were standing there just watching them. Like, it was cool to see the behind the scenes of them do that, like watching how they were like trying to verify sources, and they're like hitting up each other and be like, are you posting on this? Okay, I'll do it on social media. I'll do it on the website. Are you going to do it on the blah, blah, blah. So it took a while, and then they were able to set up for our interview, and then we got to do our interview, and it's on their website somewhere. It's also somewhere on our website. That's as much as I know right now. But it was a very fun interview. We got to plug Core on a major pop culture nerd geek outlet, which was awesome. And it was a good conversation, and they were just great people. It was so good. I saw that picture with them. But after the interview, we calmed down out of the Hilton, feeling like really good about ourselves, because we're like, oh my gosh, we just came out of the Hilton. Like, celebrities are strolling out of the Hilton. And we're like, we're 3 random Asian girls who are bounding as heroes that don't work together. But it's okay, because we feel glad. And then we went through the convention, all 3 of us, and that was really fun because we didn't have to do anything else for that day. So I just got to have fun with Soulmate and my sushi. And then everyone came to the Airbnb that night. And I remember JK slept in the seat cushions of the sofa and disappeared. Like, he's so small that the seat cushions ate him. We woke up in the morning. I thought he was gone, but I thought the sofa was empty. It wasn't empty. He was still there. It was weird. He's so tiny. We got ready and we went to go do Sucker Punch Princesses. Now, here's the rub. So we go to do our freestyle. It's far. If the convention center's here, on one end is the Hilton, across the convention center, across the entire marina. At the other end where the other hotel is, I think it's like, it might be the Ramada, some other hotel. That's where we were at. And that hotel is like pretty far away from the convention center. So we went all the way out there. We did one freestyle, and it was good. Like, we did one freestyle in a cypher. We were good. We were golden. Then we filmed the lineup where we start in a line and we branch off, just do a little thing and branch off. After that, Andrew was filming, and we're like, let's get one more freestyle in. That one more freestyle was my undoing. I went to go do an axel, and I was wearing heels, and usually that doesn't bother me, but we're also on cement, and the cement has cracks, and I went to do an axel, and my foot, you can see this freestyle. I also posted it on my Instagram if you want to see. I go for the first axel and I land in the crack, and my foot, I don't know how or what happened, but the feeling I had was like, okay, say this is my foot, and like this is my big toe and this is my pinky toe. They touched the balls of my feet, like I can't even do it with my knuckles, but they touched. They were forced together. I'm going to show you my feet right now. So all of you who hate feet, look away. These two parts touched each other. You can't make them touch each other. They don't do that. They physically don't. They touched. And I went into the second axle and I went, oh no. Oh, it didn't feel good. It felt so weird. I was like, those things shouldn't ever meet. And then I just kept dancing. And I ended up doing choreography, like bad man choreo for that freestyle because I blanked out. I didn't know what to do. So that whole freestyle, she's not present. I'm not thinking. I went to like choreo because I'm thinking the whole time like, oh my gosh, what is this feeling? Then we finished that freestyle, and then everyone was looking at, I think it was, was it Nifa? No, it wasn't Nifa. Nifa wasn't on board that year. Someone. It was like, I think it was Soulmate and either Brandon or Soulmate and Juju. It was Soulmate and someone were talking to the team. And she looked at me and I said, no, you talk. And I just slowly tried not to limp. So I'm like casually, I'm not exaggerating. This is how I walked over to Roston. So quiet. And I whispered to him, I was like, you need to get me some water. And he looks at me and he's like, what? And I was like, I feel like I'm going to throw up. And he goes, why are you gray? And I was like, my foot hurts. I'm gonna go sit down. So and then I awkwardly turned away from him. And he was sitting next to Jason. And Jason's like, what is she talking to you about? And Ross's like, he's so confused. So he like awkwardly goes to get his hydro flask. And I just like go sit down. And I just sit there. And he gives me the water. He's like, are you okay? And I was like, oh, I'm dizzy. I hurt my foot. And he was like, what does it feel like? And I was like, it's like, it's fat. It's too fat for my heel. Like if you looked down, it was pudging out of my heels. It was not good. Oh, Ralston's calling me. Babe, duh. I'll talk to you later, sweetheart. So then we go, okay. And then I tell Soulmate, just send everyone inside and they can break and they can eat. We're just going to do a quick photo shoot because we just needed to get the photos of the princesses and their outfits for our records and for promo purposes. So everyone leaves, and it's not till everyone leaves do all the princesses come over. And they come to the bench and I go, yeah, sorry guys. I kind of just like, I tweaked my foot. So can we just do like the group photo, and then I'll just do my individuals, and then I'm just going to head inside and like take care of it while you guys finish up. And Soulmate's like, yeah, we got this. And Shell and I think Juju Juju took the team in because Juju and Brandon took the team in, and then Shell and Soulmate, because they were all on board, they were staying out with the princesses. So we did the group photo shoot, like all those, like this cute one that we did all those. And then I did my solo photo shoot, and I couldn't do any cool poses. Like, I am so sad because my Mulan photos were just like me standing there or me like kind of leaning this way because I'm like, I can't put any weight on this foot. Then I finished the photo shoot, and then Rawson's with me, and I go, all right, guys, let's go. So we start walking back. I'm still walking like this. And he's like, do you want to lean on me? And I said, no, if I lean on you, it's going to look like I'm hurt. I don't want it to look like I'm hurt. We're going to walk like this. So he's laughing and I'm laughing, but laughing also hurts because I'm like, so we're laughing because I'm like trying not to, don't be suspicious. Don't be. So then as we get into the convention center, I drop by the first aid and I'm like, do you guys have like, just have them like ice, just like some ice. And do you have like, maybe like tape? Do you have like tape and some ice? Like give me a Ziploc bag of this block of ice. Like not even enough. It's not even like broken up so you can wrap it around something. It's just a square block of ice. And then they give me like Marley tape, like tape that you tape a stage down. This is not medical tape. And I'm like, you know what? We'll make it work. So then we go backstage where everyone's chilling, and I go like quietly sit down, and I call JK. I go, JK, come here. JK, come here. Because JK is, he's certified as an athletic trainer. So he comes over, and I'm like, hey, so like, my foot, it needs some help. And he goes, oh, he let me like get it out of my shoe, and he's like, oh. I'm like, yeah, it doesn't, it's tight in there because she's pretty fat, huh? So he like tapes my foot as much as he can, and then we try to shove, well, not yet, but later on we try to shove my foot in with all the tape on it. It's not well. And then I'm like, I'm going to ice it, but can you like sit in front of my foot so that just like, here's the reason. I wasn't trying to hide it to pretend I wasn't injured. I just wanted to hide it from the rest of the team because I didn't want anyone to care about it. That sounds weird, but I didn't want anyone to care about it. I'm like, you guys have other things you need to worry about. You have the set to worry about. It's, you know, it's Comic-Con. I'm fine. I'm not gonna die. And you know what we can do? I'm Mulan. We can take me out of pieces. Like, I'm in the center for a lot of stuff. We can make it work. I don't have to go as crazy full out. So we can make it work. So I was like, I won't say anything about my foot. So I'm just icing my foot, and we're running the set. The first time I get up to practice a set backstage, I can't put any weight on it. Like, absolutely none. And that's when I panic, and I look at someone and go, I need to get taken out of some of these pieces. And she was like, is it bad? And I said, right now, I can't put any weight. Like, I can't even I can't even do this walk right now. So she was like, oh no, soulmate. And I said, let me just warm it up though. Because I will say part of the new, and I had this for my knee for ACL, part of the new standard for physical therapy is to not baby it. Now that's not to say, you know, push it so you injure it more. It's just if you let it baby, then it will swell and it will start to stiffen in that way. So granted, I have a fat mother trucking foot, but I'm like, as we start running things, as I slowly get up and get the blood flowing in it, it starts to get a little bit malleable. Like the fatty, putty taco foot starts to move a little bit. So I'm like, okay, we're getting there. So when we got on stage, granted adrenaline helps, but it didn't hurt as much as it could have. It definitely was very achy, sore, painful at the end. But on the stage, I was able to get through the set. And I personally don't think I did my best on the stage because I want to do a lot of like my cool moves that I do because it's Mulan. I wanted to fight. And so I was really upset with myself that I didn't watch where I was dancing outside in the freestyle and that I couldn't do Mulan the justice that I wanted to give her. Not to say that I was super down on myself. I was just like, poo. That was like a personal thing. I would love to rehash Baby Doll Mulan just to do right by her. Not have a freaking taco foot. So we get through the set. Set was super fun. That was also the year that me and Juju started the conversation with Saber Guild, and then we started talking, me, him, and the leader of Saber Guild started talking where we wanted to do a collaboration, and that's when we got their information the first time. So that's something that we've always wanted to do is a collaboration of Star Wars with Saber Guild. We'll never touch Star Wars because that's always Saber Guild's thing, of course, and we always see them at WonderCon and we always see them at Comic-Con, and so we never want to take their steez. But if we got to do a collaboration with them, we would finally get to do something Star Wars. I have this image of just like everyone on stage being Sith and just like one lone, like I really love the Force Unleashed game, and that's basically what I want to do on the stage. But anyways, so we got to have fun with Saber Guild in the back. Like, despite the foot, it was a good time. Until after the performance. Now, granted, we already have a taco foot. Chibs had slipped in her boots on stage. And if my right knee is bad, Chibs's left knee is bad. So on that, it's a very slippery stage. She had slipped on an entrance on the curtain. The way the curtain was, there was too much extra fabric on the side and she slipped on it. So she had tweaked her knee. So she was like, oh, and she's just the same way. She's like, oh my gosh, it hurts. But she was just, you know what? I'll take care of it when I get home. It's just right now, it just hurts. I just need a minute. So like after the performance, she was just like, crap, I'll take care of it. So she like got her knee brace out and both of us are just like, you know what? We got through the performance. Everything's okay, blah, blah, blah. And then something happened. Koki is the biggest trooper of all. So thank you, comrades. You guys always give me so much credit when it comes to dealing with pain. I will say, give some of that credit to Cokes Magokes, because one, Koki doesn't, if he ever gets hurt, he doesn't ever react to it. He doesn't. A mistake happened. We were all taking pictures, and Jason had thrown his phone to Richie. But he threw it overhand, and Jason's a very buff individual. So he threw it overhand, and it missed Richie, and it clocked Koki at the top of his head. I watched it happen because Jason was standing next to me. He was standing there. I was sitting down. We were about to take a picture, and he threw his phone. Oh, don't blur. Stay with me. Haha. Haha. So he threw his phone. It clocks Koki right at the top of the head. I watch Koki. I watch his face. There's a moment where Koki just it hits him, and then he thinks, and then suddenly he goes, and he drops down. And right away I go, Koki doesn't do that. He never makes that face. You could smack Koki with something and he'd just be like, oh, you smacked me. But he actually looked like he was in pain, and he crouched down and held his head. So I scoot over because taco foot, and I go, hey, Koki, are you okay? And he goes, he takes his hands away. You guys, I've never seen blood gush like a fountain until that moment when blood gushed from Koki's head like a fountain. It literally just poured down, and we looked down, and I didn't even see it come out. We just see all this blood start appearing in front of him on the carpet. And he goes, oh, and then he goes, oh, and I look, and I'm like, oh, and then Bev sees it, she goes, oh, and everyone goes, oh my God. And Koki starts crying, but not God love you, Koki. He's just so quiet. He just started crying for 2 seconds, and then he stopped. And later on, he's like, oh, I started crying. He's like, sorry, I started crying. I was really confused. And I was like, Koki, you have blood gushing from your head? Yes, of course. And then he just quietly sat down. And so, of course, we get the paramedics. Bev is with him. We send Olive Court. Soulmate has to take Olive Court out now. So we take Court out of the room. It's me, Brandon, Bevy stay behind with Koki, with the paramedics. And Koki is, because I was like, they show up. I'm like, hey, I'm his director. My dancer needs help. And Koki is so, you guys, when you're injured, I will say this, you have to find your calm so that people can help you. And that's exactly what Koki did. He literally just sat there, and the paramedics are like, do you feel this? And he's answering them. He's like, no, yes, no, I'm okay. And then they're like, he's getting pale because he's losing so much blood. And they're like, do you feel it? He goes, a little bit. I mean, mad props for Koki. He didn't get mad. He didn't get upset. He wasn't hysterical. He just was so calm. And that's not to say you shouldn't. I just want to give him credit for keeping it together like that, because that's some straight up skill. And then they they made it. He got him. They're like, can we take you on the stretcher? They brought a stretcher, and he's like, no, I can walk. And we're like, Koki, don't get up and walk. He's like, no, I'll go walk. So he walks with the paramedics, and he walks with Bevy, our nurse, and every core is already, going out the different way. And me and Brandon go down with them to the first aid kit, but then they're like, the convention's already closed. So we're going to go down to the first aid station. You guys can wait right here. So me and Brandon are like, okay. But we had been helping Koki. So I have a little bit of blood. I'm not wearing not on my cosplay, but on the jacket that I had on me, I had a little bit of blood on my arms and my jacket, and Brandon had a little bit of blood on his costume. And little did we know, we were standing at the bottom of the escalator where everyone from Masquerade audience is exiting. So they're all coming down, and I'm still Mulan, and he's still wearing his blue. So we clearly look like we were just on the stage. So we're standing there trying to hide this bloody mess, because we're like, oh no. people, and people are like, oh my gosh, your guys' performance was so great. And we're like, oh, thanks. Thanks. And like me and Brandon's literally next to me going like, oh my God, I look like I murdered someone. And I'm like, just keep it cool, man, keep it cool. What was awesome was that while Koki's in the first aid station, someone came up. He had a total celebrity moment. Someone came up and they're like, I'm so sorry, but was there a guy on the stage and his name was Koki Nishioka? And we were like, yes. And she was like, oh my gosh, I went to high school with him and I saw him on the stage. I was like, I know that guy. Can you tell him he was great? And we're like, yeah, he's awesome. So we were like, well, at least Koki has like he had a major celebrity recognizable moment. Koki comes out with Bevy, and when him and Bevy walk up, Koki's literally laughing. Like, he's holding an ice pack and like a piece of gauze to his still bleeding head. And he's like laughing with Bev. And we come up and I'm like, Koki, are you okay? And he's like, yeah, like we're gonna go check it tomorrow, but it's like, you can see it. And I'm like, it's just the thing is, there's no muscle up here, so it's just your skin and your scalp. So of course, when something hit it, it just split it open. There's no muscle or tissue to absorb it. It's just blood vessels. So it's just blood out of everywhere. He was like, I'm like, does it hurt? And he goes, yeah, it kind of hurts a little bit, but I'm okay now. And then we went out, and right out the doors, Jason was there. And Jason immediately goes up to Koki, and he was like, I'm so sorry. Koki forgave him because Koki was great like that. And it was the worst injury that happened in like the sweetest way. Jason was super attentive to Koki the rest of the night. I know they shared an Airbnb, so like he was really taking care of him. And Koki is just like, he was like, you know what, we can put it behind me. You owe me one, and like would joke about it. But again, it's just a credit to core humans in general about how they can work together even in adversity. This was also the one where everyone went home. We made sure because like everything was closed now, and we're like, okay, let's make sure that everyone who's still staying down here in San Diego makes it into like Ubers or their cars for the Airbnb. And then a bunch of us were going to our cars and driving home that night. I'm walking with Soulmate and Bev and Rostin because we're gonna drive home that night. And then Richie and Chibs. Was Jason with them? Was Can with them? I forget. I remember me and Chibs were walking. Chibs is hobbling, and at one point, Richie goes, can I just give you a piggyback ride? And she goes, yeah. So Richie is so sweet. He had Chibs in a piggyback ride, and he's like walking with her. Everyone kept asking me, they're like, Ross is like, do you need me to carry you? And I was like, no, pardon my French. I kept saying, I ain't no bitch. So I'm just hobbling, dragging my strong foot with me. And it was funny. I say it's funny because Soulmate was like, let me help you with your bag. And I go, no, I got it. She takes my backpack. And I go, no, you don't have to. And she literally looks at me, she goes, oh, catch me if you can. Oh, can you run? And Bev starts laughing. And I'm like, oh, so me. It was so funny. We were just being, for being two injured people and like everything that happened, we ended the night all still laughing and having fun. Soulmate teasing me. It's funny when Soulmate's a bully because she's probably the sweetest bully you'll ever meet. She's like kind. She's a kind bully. And then at one point we had to stop, and I stopped to help Chibs and Richie, so then the rest, Soulmate, Bevy, and Rostin could go and get the car. Not because I couldn't make it, but because Chibs was trying to jump down from Richie's back, but her fishnets had gotten caught into one of the many studs and grommets or whatever those things. So she's just wrapped around. Her leg is wrapped around his middle, and we're trying to. At one point, she's like, "Just rip it off," and we're like, "We can't." I don't know what kind of tights you're wearing or what this thing is on Richie, but we can't. So it is dark, and Chibs is just like straddling Richie, and Richie's like trying to like push her off, and she's trying to push him off, and I'm trying to separate them, and we're like intensely checking because Chibs is connected at the crotch, so there's like I mean, it's a good thing we're all really close friends because that was an interesting interaction. We were laughing again so hard because Richie was like, I was just trying to help you. And Chips was like, I'm so sorry. Eventually, it literally took a good 15 to 20 minutes to unearth her from. We don't even know. I don't even know how. We just, at one point, it finally gave way. And she was like, oh my gosh. She was like hovering on her. She was like trying not to put bad weight because her good leg was stuck and she was putting her weight on her bad leg. So it was a stress ball change. Then I remember getting in the car and I think Rawson drove home or Soulmate. I remember Soulmate was in the front seat, and I love when Soulmate and Rawson spend time together because they're Emmys, and I was like, I was passed the heck out in the back seat. And at one point they fed me in and out, and then we made it home and they helped me take all the stuff out, and then they were just like, you need to just go to bed. And then the next day I went to Beach Blanket Beagle and I performed on my taco foot for the next 3 weeks. Don't do that. I did that because contracting issues. I will say I got really good at climbing stairs with one foot. I did not put weight on that taco foot for at least 2 weeks. It was amazing. And every night and in between every show, we did 6 shows a day. In between every show, I iced that foot. And my taco foot was great after it healed. It's a great taco foot. It clicks sometimes. But I think that's just something I'm going to have to live with. Yeah. So that was the end of San Diego Comic-Con. And that was the end of the 2018 108th year. It ended. It was a lot. 108th year was a lot. We did a lot. We actually, now like talking back through it, we dealt with a lot of like crazy situations. Saul, FMA, 114-degree weather, taco feet, cell phones flying through the air. So, and then after 108th, we actually ended up saying goodbye to, I think, 8 or 9 of our corpsmen. A good chunk of our corpsmen were like, this is our final year. And of course, we're always like, if you feel ready to move on, by all means move on. And you're always welcome to come back whenever. But I think 7 or 8 of our corpsmen ended up leaving that year. And that year, me and Soulmate actually talked about it. And we were like, what if we didn't have auditions? And she's like, yeah, what if we just worked with a smaller company? And it was a big risk at that time to take a smaller company, knowing how much we did in that 108th year and knowing we would do that same amount, if not more, in the 109th year, but now take away like at least a third of the team. So we're like, this is the risk we're willing to take. And the 109th year ended up being probably one of the most crucial and epic years of core ever. It's ATM and Boku no Hero year. So we're finally catching up to it. Next week is the final episode, not of Beyond the Northern Wall, but the final episode of the history of core. We've made it. Oh my gosh, you guys, one more episode and we're all caught up. Let me check the calendar. Oh, it's perfect. Y'all, we timed this perfectly. Next week, we will finish the history of core, neither brief but slightly annotated. And then when October hits, we will go into the new series of Beyond the Northern Wall, which is the Nightmare series. And I'm so excited to share the Nightmare series with you. So next week, last episode, part 11 of the history. And then we start on a brand new series. Holla. With that being said, that concludes this episode. Again, I will always say on Sunday, we have the wonderful Koki at 6:30 p.m. streaming his battle with vegetables. Side note, the day I found out Vegeta was vegetables, it blew my mind. Me, my sister, and our god sister Trixie and our god brother Dwayne were in Florida. I was like 12. And Dwayne was like, all of the Saiyans are named after vegetables. And we were like, the 3 girls were like, no, they weren't. He was like, Kakarot, carrot, Raditz, radish. And we were like, what about Vegeta? And he said, Vegeta, bulls. And I think we laughed for about 3 days. So that's what I see every time I see Koki versus Vegetables. Vegetables! That should be... Koki, you need to dress up as Vegeta for every Koki versus Vegetables. That is forever how we're going to pronounce it. That happens on Sunday. It's so much fun. You guys, I'm determined to get him to eat a flower. He'll love it. I swear. Also, he loved broccoli and cheese. So best believe Cora's going to be throwing broccoli at him. Then on this Saturday, I'm so excited to announce that I will be doing my Insta Story takeover of the Core's Instagram. So join me on Saturday. I always try to make everything I do back to Core. But Saturday, you're going to spend the day with me. And you're just going to live a day in the life of this guy. Nifa, I'm texting you. I'm texting you right now. My phone just died. You've escaped me now, but you won't escape me later. Thanks, soulmate. Coming in clutch. So, on Saturday, you'll be spending the day with me. I really am determined to start my in-store takeover from the minute I wake up, just to see if I can do it. So, Saturday was my in-store takeover, and then on Sunday, you have Koki, and... please stay subscribed to this channel and follow us on all our social media outlets. We do have a couple announcements coming up in the next couple weeks, some big ones that we're so excited. A pretty cool event that's happening in October, so make sure you are following all us on God, the words that are coming out of my mouth. I have to fart. I wonder if you can hear it on this microphone. It's not a fart. I have to poop. Hanji. With that, I'm going to leave you with Hanji's theme song. Oh, don't you dare hold back. Just keep your eyes on me and say I'm holding back. She said, shut up. All right. Hands out. Soda on 3. 1, 2, 3. Tomato. Bye, guys. Have a great rest of your day. 'Cause